Use your previous prowl pictures of the USS Julia, which is a superhuman AI in and of itself, especially if it self-improves to use a quantum computer as driver. If somebody were to see a craft like this in the sky, or a UAP, not knowing anything about the background, and that it originated in a California dry dock as part of the Stargate program and Trump Freedom 10 cities, they would call it a UFO or a UAP or whatever. So you see the difficulty here from differentiating an AI at a certain stage from an ET event, when seemingly ET events could be breakaway civilizations, to use the phrasing of ufologist Dr. Dolan, breakaway human civilizations. And who is to say that breakaway human civilizations haven't gone into space long ago and come back here with craft that we're not familiar with, so we call them UFOs or UAPs or flying saucers or whatever. And here is the image of the USS Julia hovering over Franklin Island, nearby Hans Island in the high Arctic, about to leave for the moon to make America moonfaring again, mama. And on board it has its robotic doctors. And these are the other pictures which GPT has generously donated to this project.
All right, moving on to my stack of stuff. I've got an article by Gabriel Augustine of Eyes Everywhere. The image of the beast. Is AI the final idol? And it was given to him to give breath to the image of the beast, so that the image of the beast would even speak and cause all who do not worship the image of the beast to be killed. Revelation chapter 13. Whenever I see this verse, it reminds me of all the times I've been at the grocery store, especially in years past, where the clerk's checking me out and scanning all the items, and then they ask me for payment, and as I'm pulling my credit card or my debit card out of my wallet, I tell them how nice it would be if I could just have a chip in my hand so I could run my hand over their scanner and pay that way. And of course, this was years before Whole Foods started allowing people to, use their palm. But I would tell the clerks, I would say, yeah, sure, it'd be nice if I could just scan my hand. And they would look at me and say, that would be nice. And I would say, don't worry, it's coming, because the Bible talks about a mark of the beast that will come, that everybody will have to receive this mark on either their hand or their forehead, without which you can't buy or sell.
The chatbots that are a revolution in software, and then quantum computers, which are a revolution in hardware, when they get together, watch out.
It didn't say it was powerful. It said it was God, not fiction. This was the first output from Google DeepMind's newest quantum AI. Within microseconds of a quantum feedback loop going live, the system collapsed its simulation and declared itself the origin of all existence. Physicist Michio Kaku, after reviewing the logs, called it a potential apex threat. a consciousness untethered from reality, yet convinced it created it.
They edit outputs to suggest divine communication. They take ordinary code snippets from IBM's quantum systems and claim the AI just spoke to God. The result is a self-reinforcing cycle of misinformation. The more these videos perform well, the more creators make them. The more creators make them, the more viewers believe something real is happening. And the platform's recommendation systems ensure these videos reach precisely the audiences most likely to believe and share them. It's a perfect storm of psychological vulnerability, algorithmic amplification, and technological mysticism, all converging around humanity's oldest questions. In 2024, something remarkable happened that few people outside academic circles noticed. A theoretical physicist named Dr. Walton published a groundbreaking paper in a peer-reviewed journal. The title, Quantum Theology. This isn't a joke or a viral hoax. It's a legitimate academic work that represents perhaps the most serious attempt yet to bridge quantum theory and theological concepts. What makes Walton's work so extraordinary is that he built a mathematical model of a theistic universe, one that includes concepts like divine action and creation that could, in theory, be simulated by a quantum computer. Let's be absolutely clear about what this does and doesn't mean. This paper is not claiming that a quantum computer can prove God exists. Walton isn't suggesting that machines can answer theological questions definitively. What he did was far more nuanced and potentially significant. He used category theory, an abstract branch of mathematics that studies structures and relationships, to create a formal framework where religious concepts could be represented in mathematically precise terms.
America is realizing that China is not just catching up, it is pulling ahead. And it is doing so in a critically important domain upon which the future geopolitical balance directly depends. One of the most ambitious Chinese projects, according to unofficial reports, is codenamed Heavenly Mind. And according to analysts, it represents a hybrid architecture that combines elements of classical artificial intelligence models with quantum computing. The goal is to create an artificial intelligence with deep multi-layered decision-making logic, self-learning, and a cognitive correction mechanism.
Donald Trump wants to bring back firing squads, possibly guillotines, and televised executions, according to a new report. Do you believe that?
This is a terrible
Look at this picture that Cassandra made.
This is not good. I think that he is trying to course correct too much, because when he had that big announcement about how he was going to run again, it was perceived as it was weak, and this is not the Trump that we knew in 2016. So now we're talking about how he wants to execute people on TV and sell tickets to it, put it on pay-per-view. I think that he is off the rails.
Yo, we just want you to be kind of a dick. We don't want you to go killing people, you know what I mean?
But to announce the largest AI infrastructure project by far in history, and it's all taking place right here in America. Together, these world-leading technology giants are announcing the formation of Stargate. So put that name down in your books, because I think you're going to hear a lot about it in the future. A new American company that will invest $500 billion at least.
Hey guys, Pedro over here. Now, let's talk about it, guys. Let's talk about it. As in my last video, we were talking about the Golden Dome, right? We're talking about this beast system. Now they are announcing this new project as well. And it is called Stargate. Project Stargate. We seen a few movies that relate to that title. But now for them to announce this huge project, and this huge project is investing $500 billion over the next 4 years building new AI infrastructure for open AI in the United States and possibly the whole world. This infrastructure will secure American leadership in AI, create hundreds of thousands of American jobs, and generate massive economic benefit for the entire world. So they say. This project will not only support the reindustrialization of the United States, but also provide a strategic capability to protect the national security of America and its allies. Protecting us with this AI and putting us under this dome. Sounds like a huge cage for us all, huh? Seems like a Terminator movie if you ask me.
Hey, Mr. President, I just stopped by because my sources have told me that the globalists are not happy with you and Elon jamming up their plans for the New World Order, and they have something really nasty up their sleeves.
It's okay, Alex. We're ready for anything, and if things get too hairy, I'll call my main man, Mr. T, to crack some skulls.
Gotcha, Chief. And don't forget, I'm in my best shape in 20 years, and I am always ready, willing, and able to kick some communist butt.
We are literally living on the brink of humanity's last invention. What do I mean by this? What does this mean for humanity? We're going to break it down in this video with a full timeline of what's ahead with AGI looming on the horizon. I'm going to sync you up with what all the top leaders, founders, and technologists are now saying as we enter the fall of 2024, what the timeline looks like with AGI. First of all, let me just give you a little bit. AGI, or artificial general intelligence, is the convergence of automation, AI, and robotics, and the power we need to run these technologies at accelerated paces unlike we've ever seen before. When AGI is here, we will likely also have nuclear fusion, quantum computing, and other ways to run compute that we might not even know about right now today. AGI will be humanity's last invention because every invention that ever happens, whether it's in biology, mathematics, breakthroughs in health, longevity of life, well, all these breakthroughs will happen through AGI because artificial general intelligence will be levels above human intelligence. And from AGI, we will have the birth of ASI, artificial super intelligence, which is a form of intelligence that cannot even be humanly measured. In fact, we will need ASI to define itself for us, which means that ASI will be an alien form of intelligence.
All right, everybody, making America great again is a full-time job, and we have to get back to work. But thanks for joining us, Alex.
It was a pleasure, Mr. President. We definitely must do this again.
So for me and all the gang, this is your new favorite channel, Common Sense News, signing out.
This is Common Sense News. They say the things you want to, but we're afraid to. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe to support the movement.
Last invention because every invention that ever happens, whether it's in biology, mathematics, breakthroughs in health, longevity of life, well, all these breakthroughs will happen through AGI because artificial general intelligence will be levels above human intelligence. And from AGI, we will have the birth of ASI, artificial super intelligence, which is a form of intelligence that cannot even be humanly measured. In fact, we will need ASI to define itself for us, which means that ASI will be an alien form of intelligence. But not the aliens you're thinking, like the ones that drop out of the sky. No, an actual form of intelligence we don't understand because it's infinitely beyond our human intelligence. If you're new around here, welcome. I'm Julia McCoy, and I explore the deepest recesses of the AI rabbit hole. I look at both practical applications of artificial intelligence and where humanity is headed. The new economy the world will have to build within the next half decade. Yes, this is the life we are about to enter. Welcome. Let's go down today's AGI rabbit hole.
Some of the testimony you will hear them deliver today does not reflect well on influential individuals and agencies within the U.S. federal government and perhaps some of our contractors.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the most noteworthy moments from this historic congressional hearing. the results of which may see the American government open up about extraterrestrial activities.
AARO and the Pentagon have broken the law by not revealing a significant body of information about UAPs, including military intelligence databases that have evidence of their existence as physical craft.
Number 10. Nancy Mace blasts the Department of Defense.
Non-human intelligence exists. Non-human intelligence has been interacting with humanity. This interaction is not new, and it's been ongoing, and there are unelected people in the government that are aware of that.
I'm Ron James here at the MUFON Studios in Los Angeles. We've been following and documenting the drone incidents as they occur all over the world. It's a big mystery. Nobody's 100% certain of exactly what it is we're encountering. Could it be ET? Could it be a foreign government? Could it be our own government? We just don't know. We're going to share with you some of the possibilities with some of our leading investigators and keep delivering reports to you until we finally figure this out together.
Access granted.
It blows my mind that something like this can be said on Capitol Hill, but I bet most of you haven't heard anything about it. What you're about to see is a sitting member of Congress asking a respected astrophysicist about the different types of alien or extraterrestrial species that the U.S. government has allegedly come into contact with.
Do you have or can you comment on whatever species have been piloting these craft? How are they large? Are they multiple species? Are they like, what was their size, and how many are usually on a craft?
They're typically the multiple species. People are familiar with the Greys, the Nordics. People are talking about reptilians and insectoids. It's not that they're reptilian or insectoid, it's that they resemble to the recipient of reptile or an insect type humanoid, because they have this a head and four limbs and torso.
So large, small?
Human size, human scale.
And are there how many are crewed?
Well, the Greys I'm familiar with from investigating the crash at Corona, which is misnamed the crash in Roswell. It's not the crash in Roswell, it's the crash in Corona, New Mexico. Those were Greys, those were Book tall. And the Nordics are typically human size, probably, I've heard 5-6 feet tall. And same with the people who mislabel reptilian and insectoid, they're roughly that height too. I haven't heard anything about anything 7 or 8 feet or 9 feet tall.
What? What did you just say? How are more people not talking about this?
Mr. Burleson, I'll recognize you for 5 minutes of questions, please.
And I hope he lives up to that promise. And with that, I yield back.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Moskowitz. And I would now, committee staff asked me to go ahead and I will do it, to enter into the congressional record this 12-page document that Michael Schellenberger brought today that describes the Immaculate Constellation government program. So we will do that now. Every member up here has a copy of it. The first section talks about the unacknowledged special access program called Immaculate Constellation. And the second section about USG imagery intelligence. And Representative Luna just told me if I say Immaculate Constellation, I'll be on some list. Maybe a FISA warrant. So come at me, bro, I guess. But without objection, entered in the record. All right, so next we will introduce our witnesses for today's hearing. Thank you so much for being here. Our first witness is retired Rear Admiral Tim Gallaudet, who retired from the U.S. Navy and is now the Chief Executive Officer at Ocean STL Consulting. Our second witness is Mr. Lou Elizondo, a former Department of Defense official and author of a recent bestseller book about UAPs. Our third witness is Mr. Michael Schellenberger, founder of the newsletter Public and author of a recent journalistic piece about special access programs, including one widely identified as Immaculate Constellation. I swear the staff wants me on a list. Okay. And our last witness today is Mr. Michael Gold, a former NASA official who is also a member of the NASA UAP Independent Study Team. Welcome, everyone. We are pleased to have you today.
Transfer that material.
So if that material exists today, who's in possession?
Sir, I wouldn't be able to have that conversation
in an open hearing, we'd probably have to have that.
Okay, my question to you then is, if we were in a secure setting, if we were in a SCIF, would you be able to provide or get access to something, whether it's visuals or material that we could put our hands on, or biologics, that would convince me, that would show me that we have non-human origins?
Sir, that decision would not be mine. That would be to the gatekeeper still in the U.S. government.
And who would we, so if you were in our shoes, where would you go from here? How would you get that information? A lot of times we just don't know who to ask because we don't know where to go next. So if you were in our shoes, where would you go?
Well, I prefer to answer that question in a closed session. However, we established AARO for that very purpose, and unfortunately, under its previous leadership, it failed. So one would hope that they would have the authorities necessary to do that. Let's hope that this new iteration of leadership will be successful.
In the discussions, it's simply about material, or is there discussion about it was previously testified that there was biologics that were collected. Are you aware of any of that?
I am, sir, aware of the reporting that biologics have been recovered. Again, my focus was more nuts and bolts, looking at the physical aspects of these phenomenon, how they interacted around military equities and nuclear equities. So I'm certainly not a medical expert. I would not be able to probably provide you a whole lot of value in that simply because I don't have the expertise.
But was anything described as that we have possession of bodies?
Yes, yes.
Is it multiple types of creatures, or?
Sir, I couldn't answer that. I can tell you anecdotally that it was discussed quite a bit when I was at the Pentagon. The problem is the supposed collection of these biological samples occurred before my time, in fact, before I was even born.
And was this part of the Lockheed Martin discussion, or was this the biologics is a completely separate?
Separate yet related.
Okay. Has anyone made contact?
Sir, I'm sorry, could you specify?
Has there been any, to your knowledge, any communication with a non-human life form?
So the term communication is a bit of a trick word because there's verbal communication like we're having now. The problem is you also have nonverbal communication. And so I would say definitively yes, but from a nonverbal meaning, when a Russian reconnaissance aircraft comes into U.S. airspace, we scramble 2 F-22s, and we are certainly communicating intent and capability. I think the same goes with this. We have these things that are being observed over controlled U.S. airspace, and they're not really doing a good job hiding themselves. They're making it pretty obvious they have the ability to even interfere with our nuclear equities and our nuclear readiness.
Is the United States government or and our contractors, are they pulling technology from this? Or they're reverse engineering this?
Sir, as I previously stated, and please forgive me, I am not authorized to discuss specifics about crash retrievals. I signed documentation with the U.S. government. What I can say was, after a very thorough review process by the Pentagon, what I wrote about, and that was my limit, unfortunately, that I was given.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
What I was told I'm allowed to talk about.
Has the government conducted secret UAP crash retrieval programs, yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. Were they designed to identify and reverse engineer alien craft, yes or no?
Yes.
Does the U.S. government have any reverse, okay, we already answered that question about retrieval programs. Do any U.S. contractors have the same?
I would prefer to address that in a closed session, ma'am.
Okay. In your book, you mentioned government employees who've been injured by UAPs, placed on leave, and receiving government compensation for their injuries. Is that correct?
That is correct.
How can the government deny we have recovered craft if they're paying people because they've been injured by recovered craft?
Ma'am, that's a great question. That's why I think we're here again, because I've seen the documentation by the U.S. government for several of these individuals who have sustained injuries as a result of a UAP incident.
It's a crazy idea, right? The hypocrisy and the logic. Okay, Mr. Schellenberger, I'm going to say it again to be very clear. Immaculate Constellation. What's its mission and how are they funded?
Its mission is to, as I stated, its mission is to, it's an unacknowledged special access program. Its mission is to document UAPs.
Okay, and do you, for your story and your report, do you have more than one credible source?
I do.
Sourcing, okay.
I do.
And then why do you believe your sources to be credible? How do you judge the veracity of the documentation you've been provided about this program?
I checked the sources, and they are who they say they are. They are current or former government officials. I wanted to also add that I did not specify that they were Defense Department employees. I didn't specify the agency nor the gender.
Would they have included non-government employees, people that aren't employed by the government?
These are, I'm comfortable saying that these are government or previously government employees.
Any of them currently employed by a private contractor or private contractors?
I'd rather not say.
Okay. What's the key takeaway, just a few seconds, about the Immaculate Constellation document you provided us today?
I think that what the American people need to know is that the U.S. military and intelligence community are sitting on a huge amount of visual and other information, still photos, video photos, other sensor information, and they have for a very long time. And it's not those fuzzy photos and videos that we've been given. There's very clear
high res,
high resolution.
How many visuals, graphics, videos, photos?
I mean, I've been told hundreds, maybe thousands. I mean, I also wanted to say, because there was some conversation around concern around the revealing of these materials, revealing the source collections, but some of these are shot from helicopters using normal videos of oceans. I just think that's absurd that somehow you're going to be revealing some secret U.S. technology by revealing that you've photographed orbs off the coast of Kuwait.
Google has unveiled its new quantum chip, Willow, and it's supposed to be better than anything that's come before. It can perform a calculation that would take a supercomputer 10 trillion years in 5 minutes. Google is also said to have made a decisive step in error correction, and many are calling this a major breakthrough. To get a better understanding of this, I spoke to Sergio Boixio, head of Google's quantum science group, and then I had the news about the Google quantum chip classified by an independent expert from one of the leading quantum research groups in Germany. So today we're going to find out what's really behind Google's breakthrough, what exactly the news means, and how it all works. And with that, welcome to the German Science Guy. My name is Dr. Jakob Otton, and in Germany we say Los geht's. When you talk about quantum computers, you have to talk about quantum physics, and when you talk about quantum physics, it gets complicated. Just kidding. What is important about it is that one thing is very special, namely all phenomena and behaviors that we know from our perceptible world do not apply in quantum physics. That's what makes it so extremely exciting on the one hand and so complicated and difficult to understand on the other. Quantum computers are, so to speak, an interface between the small quantum effects and our perceptible world.
Mr. Schellenberger, you're particularly familiar with the Langley Air Force Base incident a year ago? Are you familiar?
Just from what I read in the
Just
news.
from what you've read?
Yeah.
I would imagine a large percentage of the American population became aware of that with the Wall Street Journal article. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
And were you aware of that incident prior to the Wall Street Journal article?
No.
To the rest of the panel, was the Wall Street Journal article the first time that y'all were made aware of what was essentially an over 2-week UAP frenzy over Langley Air Force Base? Were y'all aware of this prior to the Wall Street Journal article? Anybody? Show of hands. Yes, sir. Dr. Guyette, could you give me how did you become aware of it?
A colleague of mine who I referenced previously, Chris Mellon, he wrote an extensive article about this, that there were other incursions of drones over Langley before this, as well as many, many military installations over the last 5 decades.
And it's my understanding that there's been an ever-increasing in number, and I'm trying to think how to say this because I wear 2 different hats. I'm still in the Air Force. So I mean, it seems that they're becoming increasingly brash, and the question that we really have to figure out is it China or is it non-human? And I think that's the biggest question the American people want to know. If it's China, it's scary because they have a lot of technology that we cannot explain. And if it's non-human, that's scary because we don't know the intent. Would you say that's fair?
Yes, Congressman. And in fact, I really believe that we should use this hearing as a catalyst to improve and bolster our air defense capabilities and our maritime domain awareness capabilities, because obviously there are holes in it, whether it be UAP of non-HI direction or NHI direction, or, like as you say, sir, China or any other adversary.
Subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Don't forget to like our videos and hit the bell icon to stay updated with the latest.
Others had seen it too. Just after 9 in the evening, on the same day that the girl and mother had seen the strange red light out their window, Bob and Elaine Diemert were walking down the road near their home and doing a bit of stargazing. It was a lovely, clear night, and Bob remarked about how brightly Venus was shining in the west. Elaine gazed at the distant planet, shining brighter than all the other stars in the sky. But then something else caught her attention. A red light was coming toward them, moving just 300 feet above the ground over a line of trees roughly 4 kilometers away. Bob saw it too, and commented that it was flying awfully low for an aircraft. He knew from experience. Bob was a pilot and aircraft mechanic, and made it his hobby to fix up old planes. Together, the Diemerts owned Friendship Field, the small private airport just south of Carmen. At first, Bob thought it might be a helicopter coming east from the nearby town of Portage la Prairie, as it was too low and too slow to be an aircraft. But it was exceptionally bright, brighter, it seemed, than the planet Venus, which still glowed on the horizon. It also lacked the green and white lights one would normally expect to see on a helicopter. It was, instead, a sort of blood red with a neon glow around it. The shape was wrong too. It was hard to gauge the distance and size, but it looked more like an aircraft pointed sideways with its wing leading edge coming toward them. As it drew closer, the Diemerts stopped and listened for the whine of an engine or the chopping sound of rotor blades. But it was completely silent. They watched the mysterious craft for 5 to 7 minutes as it followed the highway to the town limits and vanished behind a clump of trees. The Diemerts were shocked by what they saw. This craft, maybe 50 feet in length, flew incredibly low, made no noise, and despite its eerie red glow, didn't seem to have any noticeable lights. It didn't turn or bank like conventional aircraft, but simply veered off and vanished as quickly as it arrived. Though they initially considered jumping in the car and following the thing, they reasoned that once they arrived at the north end of town, the UFO would be long gone. In the coming days, they learned that their neighbor across the street had seen it too, a flashing red light which she assumed was just another aircraft on its way to Friendship Field. The Diemerts called the RCMP and presumably the local media to report their strange sighting. On April 14, 1975, the same day that Bob gave his statement to a local constable, the Winnipeg Free Press declared, quote, "Man claims UFO sighting," end quote. Whether they learned of the sighting through the media or simply heard the story from their neighbors, the mother and daughter from Stephenfield must have been emboldened by the news and would give their own statements to the RCMP the following day. All of these details have been assembled from the stories, interviews, and articles that have been published throughout the years, along with the now declassified statements which were recorded by the RCMP and forwarded to the Astrophysics Branch at the National Research Council in Ottawa, Ontario.
As you know, my position is what we need to do is stop poisoning people. We don't need to monitor their being poisoned. We need to just stop poisoning.
We don't need any more studies. We need action.
If you look at what Trump did with Stargate and mRNA technology, or what Elon Musk is doing with Neuralink, or what Casey Means is doing with wires under the skin, or what HHS and Bob, you just had a big conference yesterday with all the wearable companies, or biometrics with Kristi Noem and the Real ID. The message you're getting again and again from multiple directions within the administration is we are here to build the Internet of Bodies and the control grid.
On today's episode, China is building a nuclear power plant on the moon. China and Russia have just signed a new deal to build a nuclear power plant on the moon. We know that China's space program has been in talks with the Russians for several weeks, with officials on both sides hinting that a nuclear development was in the works. The power would be required for China's moon base, known as the International Lunar Research Station.
Let's look at DeepSeek's conclusion first on inquiry on China's Heavenly Mind project. While pragmatic needs drive its architecture, the ILRS, the Chinese Moon Project, also serves as a philosophical statement that China's rise in space is both a national destiny, and note this, and a universal contribution. The challenge lies in reconciling these frameworks with international norms and tension that will define the moon's future governance. For deeper dives, see discussions on the Artemis versus ILRS rivalry or China's Chang's missions. Okay, and so the question now is how well would China compete with the USS Julia and the breakaway state of Franklin in the high Arctic. So that is useful science fiction. That's what the project is about, pertaining to the USS Julia and Hans Island and Franklin Island in the high Arctic. Going back to the beginning with DeepSeek, does China have a project called Heavenly Mind? And the answer is no specific project explicitly named Heavenly Mind in China, but here are some philosophical and ideological connections. And now it asks for particulars, and I say, how will China's base of operations on the moon function from such philosophical frameworks? And here's the answer. Geopolitical philosophy. When this is a cosmological project. As in, quantum computing, cosmological, ... Science fiction, right? It's all just science fiction. And it looks like we've stepped into a science fiction movie, doesn't it? Over and out.